October 23rd, 2017. Thanks so much for joining me. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about tonight, but I have to focus on one in particular, which is why I'm doing this formatted show. I brought home an entire list of stories that I wanted to talk about, basically covering the news, but on my way home, I had a conversation with a friend. Some of you may know her. I don't think I'm going to say her name yet because we're likely going to do a full-blown piece, quasi-investigative piece, on what happens when you've been labeled a Russian troll and blacklisted by Twitter, but you're actually a real person. This has happened to a friend of mine, and I am, I consider her a friend. We started off as Twitter friends, and we ended up talking in real life, keeping up with each other in real life. We've had arguments, and many of you may already know who I'm talking about because of the description, but that's besides the point. She'll make herself known when she's ready to, either write the article or I'll write the article. But this entire Russia narrative, this idea that Russia had its long tentacles of communism inside of every aspect of the American electorate. And that's how we explain Donald Trump winning. Let me start with two different veins that I'm going to discuss. No, two different veins that I want to mention. Only one I'm going to discuss because I've talked about the other. Vein number one is the fact that Russia did get involved in our election. And that evidence is coming out showing to the extent to which they did get involved. Particularly the evidence that I'm interested in is the evidence that Don Jr. released in his email chain, showing that they actively sought information from Russia. Right? That's what's relevant to this conversation. Because any other example of Russia getting involved in this election pales in comparison to what the United States does on a regular basis. This is not to excuse away Russia involvement, but I want to put it into context. It's not as though Russia is doing something that is not standard, par for the course. I mean, if we pause and ask the question, I wonder to what extent China was involved in our election. I wonder to what extent the United Kingdom was involved in our election. Because this is what great powers do. They attempt to chart the course of other nations by getting involved in the internal politics. The United States, we're masters of this. So I'm not interested in actually discussing the reality of it because I believe that they did do it. But we've gone beyond the pale here. We've gotten so far past any place of sensibility that now Twitter and other outlets, well, before I get to Twitter, let me take a couple of steps back. The other vein that I want to discuss is this push in the media. And when I say push in the media, I do believe that it is a concerted effort by journalists and by media outlets to push this narrative, particularly because it coddles the angst of many Hillary Clinton supporters. And it helps them to understand how Hillary Clinton could have lost to President Fuckface Bun Clown Steak Donald Trump. And because it generates clicks. It plays to the Cold War era people who Hillary Clinton supporters who grew up during the Cold War, and so it harkens back to a time familiar to them when they were afraid of the godless communist. And it sells. It sells for that reason alone. If you look at the demographics of the Rachel Maddow show, and you look at the graphics of MSNBC, you realize it's an older generation. People online, the younger generation, we're not buying into this. And this is not to say all old people are buying into this. I'm not being ageist. But the NBC is playing to their base. MSNBC is playing to their base in the same way that Fox News plays to their base. There is this gripping fear of and familiarity with the fear of Russia, particularly the godless communist iteration of Russia, which they are not currently. It is hysterical to hear I can't call them leftists. It's hysterical to hear Democrats talking about communist Russia. Russia is as capitalistic and oligarchic as the United States is. But because this plays to their base so well, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, Chris Hayes not so much, but he doesn't push back against it. Joy Reid, And please, I'm making a mental note. I have to address the black Negro liberal class who are allowing this to happen. But because this plays so well to a particular demographic, there are a lot of clicks and a lot of views to be had as a result of this narrative. And so as we've seen, Gizmodo put a piece out, The Nation put a piece out, The Atlantic put a piece out, BuzzFeed put a piece out, and of course Daily Kos was there to regurgitate it. Because that's all they do. They don't do any original reporting. I mean, at least here at Progressive Army, at least we give you original shows every night where we discuss the news and we give you a different experience. But Daily Kos, Daily Kaz, Daily FAP, all they do is just regurgitate. And so they've been forwarding this narrative over and over and over and over again. And such to the point where now it's no longer just Russia was involved. There's a very specific target of this now. A very specific target is the black community, the activist community. And if you notice, it's actually a subset of this community, because nobody is saying DeRay McKesson was a Russian troll, or DeRay McKesson was inadvertently, controlled by Russians. But they will say Black Lives Matter, or they will say black activists, and they will take these edge cases of individuals who may have encountered someone from Russia, and they create a narrative that reaches far beyond the individual case. They're taking a very specific case and making gross generalities out of it. And then they take these generalities and then they add all of these generalities together, and they create a narrative that now is being used to actively harm real black people who didn't have a damn thing to do with Russia. All because they have edge cases of one or two people who had these off-chance encounters with Russians. And now those one or two people have been magnified into being black activists, have been approached and infiltrated by the Russians. The boogeyman is here. And now there are very real ramifications for this narrative. I have two friends who've been hurt by this. Marcus Farrell. He was director of African Americans for Bernie. I might have the title wrong, but I know he ran with Bernie Sanders during the 2016 campaign. He was one of their national leaders. And after that race was over, he's from Atlanta. He's worked with Stacey Abrams' campaign for governor. And because Marcus Farrell went on the same show that I've been on plenty of times. Hell, I was on that show today, By Any Means Necessary, with Eugene Puryear. It's on Radio Sputnik, which does have connections and funding from Russia. Holy God, it's the end of the world. So does Russia Today. RT has funding from Russia. But you know what? Every single time I've been on... This is the thing, and I'm getting frustrated talking about this. Every time I've been on By Any Means Necessary, there's never been a single conversation before, after, or doing about my content. I've been 100% free to say whatever the hell was on my mind. And even if that means saying things that run counter to what Russia would want said. Matter of fact, they don't even give a damn. I'm sorry. They don't give a damn about what we say on that show. They don't. Because if they did, they would never let me on. Because I've always said that I believe that there's something to the Russian. Well, actually, I can't say that I always said that. Let me correct myself. I don't want to be phony here. I said that I'm waiting to see evidence. And as soon as I saw evidence, I'm like, yeah, there was some collusion. Don Jr. produced some evidence of some collusion. Right, so if they were if their tentacles of Mother Russia was so far and so far-reaching, then they would have shut me up. They would never let me go on that show again, not after I did it the first time. I've been on that show at least, I don't know, Eugene, how many times have I been on your show? At least 20 times. I can't even count how many times I've been on that show. But my friend Marcus Farrell, political consultant, Politico, he has had to resign from his job because he went on that show to talk about the movie Confederacy, or the show rather, HBO was proposing Confederacy. And during that conversation, he mentioned that he was working for the Stacey Abrams campaign. The local newspaper, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, heard of it, and because they're secretly in the bag for another candidate, right? We see you, AJC. We know what you're doing. They called the campaign. They called Stacey Abrams' campaign and said, did you know that you had a consultant who was on a Russian-funded media? And as a result, he had to resign. He voluntarily resigned, but you know how that works. And then they run an article, trashing him. Basically, they had to rewrite the damn article, but the original article made it seem like he was a Russian plant. Conveniently helping out the opposition, the political opposition, who happens to be a Democrat. We're still in the primary phase. So they use this Russian narrative, they're stoking the fears of the fear of the Red Scare, Mother Russia. And they're using that to benefit establishment Democratic Party types to the detriment of black activists, black politicos. That's case number one. Case number two is a young woman who I won't call her name out until she's ready to either put the article out or we put the article out for her. But she has been completely blacklisted from Twitter. Like, I've been suspended before, and when I was suspended, I was able to open up another account and had a temporary account, etc., etc. Her entire damn IP address has been blacklisted. Like, she can't even, if she, anywhere from her home or her work number, where she, or anywhere connected to where she's ever been, if she attempts to create another account from that, it automatically registers back as suspended. And they told her it was about a particular tweet, but she reached out to some people who knew people who worked at Twitter. And according to her friends who reached out to some people at Twitter were told by the people whom they reached out to at Twitter that they should avoid her because she was a Russian troll. She was working for the Kremlin. Now, this is a real person. I was just on the phone with her on my way home today. Her country accent and all. You don't have a real country accent. I have a country accent, but she's a real person. A real human being, black woman who has been active in this thing. The only thing I can say about this particular person is that she's crass as hell. I mean, she would say whatever the hell is on her damn mind, but that should be besides the point, right? That's completely irrelevant to, I mean, she if she got suspended, I'm going to keep it real with you. I hope you're listening. If you got suspended for being, I don't want to say an asshole because I'm an asshole, but if you got suspended for, I don't know, being too hard to, I don't want to say harassment, right? Because harassment online, social media harassment, that's in the eye of the goddamn beholder. I'm sorry. I know it exists. I'm not saying it isn't real, but in this case, I don't think she harassed anybody. But let's just say that she was rougher on people than I would have been, right? And I'm pretty tough. If she got suspended for that, then I'd be like, don't know what to tell you. That's kind of how it's kind of the bad beat, but that's what it is. But no, she was suspended on the same exact day as Crystal Johnson was suspended, the one who has an article out about her saying that she was a fake account. And she was a Russian account. Now, I'm calling Crystal Johnson's name out because I don't personally know her. I followed her on Twitter. She followed me. She retweeted some of my stuff. She always had wonderful stuff to say about the black community. I mean, if Russia really thinks that positively of the black community, I don't see a problem with it. But that's besides the point. I can't speak on behalf of Crystal Johnson because I didn't have a personal relationship with her in terms of I never spoke to her in real life. So I can't say if she was a real person or not, but I can say that this other woman who's been suspended from Twitter and now has been associated as a Russian troll, I know that she is a real person. I don't even know why I'm not saying her name. Charlie Peach. Georgia Peach on Twitter. I know she's a real person. I've talked to her. I've argued with her. Like we argued online, and then I said I pulled her card and she pulled my card, and I said I'm just going to call you offline, and I talked to her on the phone. I talked to her on the phone a few minutes ago. She's a real person, and yet she's been blacklisted and lumped together in this Russia troll narrative and this Russia troll blacklisting by what is this place? Twitter. And what is she supposed to do about it? She can't get any information. And I'm wondering, in the case of Crystal Johnson, what if she was a real person and just a little different in the sense that she didn't really interact with people? I don't know what's possible, but the problem is she could have been blacklisted in the same way as Peach was blacklisted. And nobody has a way to get up with her except for people who know her personally. You see how this works? You see why this is so problematic? But yet this is the prevailing narrative that's being spun about Russia right now. And here's my biggest problem. Where are the black voices? Not just the black, we'll get to the other people, but right here, black. Where are the black voices with the significant platforms? Where are the Joy Reids? Where are the, my friend, I'll message him tonight, but I'm calling him out now. Where's Bakari Sellers? You know, where are all these people with platforms large enough who can look at how insidious this is and actually make it a national issue so that black activists, black politicos, and black media personalities are not marginalized by this narrative that benefits the Democratic establishment? Now, I can't speak for Joy-Ann Reid, but I will. I don't think she cares. I think I'll bring it up to Bakari and see if he says anything about it. You know who else I don't think cares? DeRay McKesson. I don't think he cares. I think it benefits them to have, particularly Joy-Ann Reid and DeRay McKesson. I think it benefits them to not have to deal with the noisy black people who challenge their worldview. Some of us did it in a very crass way. But hell, this is the internet. If you can't survive life on the internet, then God, how are you going to be a leader of a movement? And I'm not speaking against the push to try to, all the other stuff that they're doing to try to make a better experience, because there's a lot of sexual harassment that goes on the internet. I'm not speaking about that. I'm talking about dissenting voices who simply dissented, who are now being lumped together in the Russia narrative. So now you have people losing their jobs. You have people losing access to Twitter. All because of I want to say a false narrative. Yeah, I could say a false narrative, because the broader narrative is erroneous. The broader narrative is fallacious. The broader narrative is built on edge examples. Take the two African guys on YouTube that were promoted by Daily Beast, by the dailybeast.com, and they were essentially lifted up as saying, this is how Russia utilized. They hired these two black guys to go out and spin negative narratives about Hillary Clinton. And then you look up these dudes on YouTube and see that they got 10 hits, 5 views. I mean, I've literally gotten more views off of accidental uploads than these dudes have gotten combined. But they take these edge examples and say that, see, this is how Russia affected the election. And once you start that, you broaden that, and it's a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope that engulfs everyone with whom the establishment disagrees. It's almost as if they cannot simultaneously wait on Bob Mueller to get done with his investigation and not create a Neo-McCarthy era in which black people are hurt the most. They can't do it. I mean, a responsible adult would be able to say I'm not punching left here, guys, but it may feel like it. A responsible person would be able to say it's possible that Russia got involved in this election further, more than what we're able to see right now. Let's wait and see what Bob Mueller has to say. And it's also possible for an adult to be mature enough to say not only that, but let's not go too far down the rabbit hole and accuse everyone that we don't like of being Russian trolls. And the only reason I talked about that sounding punching left is because a lot of us on the left, progressive circles, can't say that first sentence any more than the Democratic establishment folks can't let this spread to everybody with whom they disagree. I mean, they get into an argument on Twitter and the first thing they say is Russian troll. I'm like, God, I need people to be smarter, man. I need Americans to be more clear. I need them to be clearer in their thinking. I need them to be able to assess situations based on reason and logic, and not just reason and logic for the sake of saying reason and logic, but for the sake of, if nothing else, at a minimum, be reasonable. Every person that disagrees with you online is not a Russian troll. And to see how this narrative has gotten so out of control that it is damaging the lives of very real people that I could pick up the phone right now and call them, yet they have been labeled Russian trolls and now they've been blacklisted and they've lost jobs. Okay, so I had to speak about the Negro liberals, the no, that's I don't think Bakari is a Negro liberal, but I do think DeRay is. Joy Ann Reid. So I've covered them. You guys know it. I'm a friend with somebody. I try to be a friend with them, right? Do or die. And I honestly don't think. I honestly believe I may be a fool, but I'm gonna text. I'm gonna text Bakari later and see what he has to say about this. Because it has to come from people with significant pull, like they do, like they have. I don't expect anything from DeRay. I don't expect anything from Joy Ann Reid because I think it benefits them. Now, not only do I want to talk about them, but also white people. I mean, come on. Will you not learn anything? I mean, I don't know if I expect anything from you all, particularly the people who run these media outlets who are ostensibly progressive or liberal or at least not Republican. These are not Republican outlets that are running these narratives that are damaging to the black movement. These are ostensibly progressive or liberal outlets. I would get it if this was something used by conservatism to silence black voices. But this is something being used by the Democratic establishment types to silence black voices as almost collateral damage. It's just an unfortunate side effect of their push to use the Russian narrative as a means of explaining how Hillary Clinton lost. We're sorry if all of these black people are being silenced and blacklisted because of this narrative, but we need you to deal with it because it's more important for us to assuage the angst of all of the Hillary Clinton supporters who just can't accept the fact that Donald Trump beat her without help. So it's more important for us to use this narrative to pat grown people on the back and pat them on the head and just let them sob on our shoulders. It's okay. It's okay. It's really Russia's fault. It's okay. Don't worry. It's more important for them to be able to do that than it is for them to realize that they are hurting black people. And again, do not be intentionally obtuse with me. No. Don't come to the Benjamin Dixon show and be intentionally stupid because I will call you out. Nobody is saying that Russia is innocent in this. Nobody is saying that Donald Trump did not collude. What I'm saying is don't go so far down the rabbit hole that everybody is burned in the process. God damn, can you people not be just like ridiculously simple? I'm not talking to my audience clearly. I'm just talking to the imaginary Hillary Clinton supporters that aren't even listening. Damn it. But can they not? Can you please miss me with this oversimplified view of the world that reduces everything into a binary? You're either Russian or you're a Hillary Clinton supporter. That binary is harming black people. And if you want our support in 2018 to help get a divided government to buffer against the onslaught of the Trump administration, then you cannot destroy all of our social media access, all of our platforms. You cannot sit by and allow people to lose their jobs of influence in the political circles. You cannot sit by and watch our destruction and then wonder where the black community went. Where we went is into oblivion because of your obtuseness and your the desperation of Hillary Clinton supporters. I said it last week. We all lost to Donald Trump. Every single one of us who are not in that 37.7% of people who still support Donald Trump, even the idiots that voted for Donald Trump but then came to their senses, all of us lost to Donald Trump. And I don't care whether you like that sentence or not. I'm not asking you to like that sentence. That is the reality. There are all of us who are on this side of the equation who know who Donald Trump is, and those of us who knew who Donald Trump was. We have all lost to Donald Trump, but yet some of us are being penalized twice because you need to feel good about yourself, because you need to explain to yourself how, and it's because of your willingness to accept anything that's anti-Russia that these articles are still being written. So yes, you are responsible for this too. They would not write these articles if people looked at it and say, man, please, that's just stupid. I mean, for that one to have been funny, you had to see my face, because it was. But if people would look at how ridiculous these articles are and say that this is utter drivel, don't send us this mess. Black people have been organized long before Russia ever got involved. Black people, it doesn't matter if Russia did get involved. The grievances of the black community were legitimate, and they cannot be delegitimized by Russian involvement. And yes, even if Russia did involve themselves in the civil rights movement back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and if Russia got involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's because they have a fundamental misunderstanding of what the United States of America is and the capacity of the United States of America. America has never been brought down by social dissent and social disagreements. America has been made stronger by that. I'm sorry if in Russia the entire government will fall because of dissenting voices. That's your totalitarian problem. In the United States of America, we are able to disagree with each other, shout at the top of our lungs, and find ways to move forward. And so if Russia thought that the civil rights movement was going to help destabilize the United States of America, that just shows how ignorant they are as to what it is to be an American. America was made stronger because of the civil rights movement. America will be made stronger because of Black Lives Matter. And I'm sorry if Russia thought that they could throw a couple of dollars over here and help promote some Black Lives Matter movements, and that would help create social instability. What instead it is doing is creating a more perfect union. Russia thinks this. If they think this, I don't understand how they could think this, because history has shown that time and again, every time we have every time that there is dissent, every time there is a grievance and we bring it up, we make progress on that. The United States of America is wrong in a lot of places, but one of the places where we get it right is in that we progress and we extend more and more liberties, more and more rights to people who were once completely marginalized. And if Russia thought that they were going to bring us down by funding the Black Lives Matter movement, then again, I have to go back to the same scripture that I keep quoting, because it is the most relevant scripture to this story. Where Russia meant for evil, the Constitution worked out for our good. That is my interpolation of scripture. This is what the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good. I mean, he worked it out for our good. Russia could have poured millions of dollars into the civil rights movement because they believed that it was going to destabilize the United States of America. But little did they know that it was going to make America greater than what it was. Not any old general bull, make America great again. We still got a long ways to go. And so perhaps it would be great if Russia keep trying to destabilize the United States of America, because every time you do it, you make America better. We would not have gotten the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, or flip the dates. We would not have gotten those without the Civil Rights Movement. And now Black Lives Matter is moving not only on that, but Black Lives Matter is expanding to everything, man. The LGBTQ community, right? They're going to immigration rights. They're going into all of these issues. So keep making that same mistake, Russia. And this is what I need Hillary Clinton supporters, Democratic Party establishment types. I need you to be aware of this. Your narrative. Let me actually stop that sentence and start this over, because there are two different groups here that I have to speak to. The Hillary Clinton supporters who are sincerely hurt by the loss and they're trying to find some way of explaining it. I need you to be smarter than what the Democratic establishment wants you to be and what these journalists and these media outlets need you to be to keep giving them clicks. You are wise enough. You've been around the block long enough to realize that it is very likely and very possible that Russia has been funding things all along, and they've been funding it to undermine the United States. But have you not seen time and again how every single movement that the civil rights people that we have touched has made America stronger? And our grievances existed before any involvement. Our grievances were legitimate, and they cannot be delegitimized by Russian involvement. That is their foolish mistake to think that they can fund us into unrest. I need you to be smart enough, and I believe that you are smart enough to comprehend that. Now, to these media outlets, we're just going to call it what it is. You're opportunistic. You want these clicks. You know that you could drive sensationalization into the bank. You could take that to the bank. And you are doing it to the detriment of very real people. I would say, shame on you, but you have no shame. All you want are more clicks. And this is why the Progressive Army exists, progressivearmy.com. We exist because we will never pander to our audience. We will tell you the difficult things. We're going to do it even more so. I think if I had one critique of our site, it would be that I personally have not made sure that you would hear more dissenting voices from the left perspective. I don't give a damn about the right. I don't give a damn about centrism and all that. I'm talking about we are very thorough in what we allow. We don't censor. We allow everyone to say exactly what's on their mind. And we all have kind of gathered around each other. And there seems to be a very definitive narrative that comes from the Progressive Army. It's genuine. It's true. It's not funded by anybody. It's not funded by anybody but Ben Dixon and the little bit of money that we make on the site. And we pay our, we just do the best that we can to be have as much integrity as we can. And so one of the things that we do is that we are 100% true in every article that we write. My only critique, is that I want more dissenting voices from the left. I think that there's some places for us to disagree on our site even more. And I say that not so much only as a critique, but also as an invitation to you who feel like your voices are not represented. Then Progressive Army is the place for you, so long as it's coming from a progressive perspective. If you're coming from some right-wing stuff, then just stay the hell away. But the point is this. We need more media outlets that are not, that are not going to pander to your audience. Tell your audience the hard truth. The best compliment I could have ever gotten, man, was from a listener who DM'd me. And he said, Ben, I've got a bone to pick with you. I'm like, what now? Who's mad at me now? And he said, I wish I could pull it up exactly word for word, but he said, I'm mad at you because you forced me to confront my own biases. And you would not allow me to simply accept things because I wanted to hear them. I promise you, that is the best compliment I could have ever gotten. Because that's what I'm here for. That's what the Progressive Army is here for. That's what the progressivearmy.com is here for. That's what we do. And shame, you know what? Enough of shaming them. What we need for our platform to be as is widely disseminated and widely distributed as platforms like the Daily Kos, who just write what is going to get confirmation bias and clicks. All right. I think I've hit everything. Yeah. Go support theprogressivearmy.com by going to the website, reading the articles. We have ads on our articles. We're a business. We are trying to make money so that we can grow the site, to pay our writers more, to do even more journalism, to do even more reporting and even more commentary. Go to the website, share the website, share our articles. Support me. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon show, so I can keep telling the truth as I see it in any format that I do it. Doesn't matter where you find me. I don't care if I'm on content.news. I'm telling the truth. The Benjamin Dixon show, I'm telling the truth. If I'm a guest hosting for David Pakman or whoever else, I'm telling the truth. If I'm a guest on By Any Means Necessary, I'm telling the truth. If you're just listening to a podcast and I didn't even turn on my camera that night, like I didn't tonight, I'm telling the truth. Good night.